Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of the Empowered Eating Disorders podcast. We cover topics that may be triggering for some people, specifically in relation to mental health and eating disorders. Before we begin, here are some acronyms you may hear in episode 1. CNS is the Complex Needs Service, LPC is Lead Provider Collaborative, PENA Awards is Patient Experience Network Awards, and CWP, which is Cheshire and Wirral Partnership NHS Foundation Trust. That's enough from me. So, over to the experts.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Empowered podcast. I'm Georgia, and I also have India here with me, and we're going to be kind of running this podcast together. Yeah.
Hi, I'm India, and it's really nice to be sat here with Georgia because I think we met maybe 6 or 7 years ago when we were both quite unwell, maybe even longer than that. And now we're sat here sharing our journey and just shedding a bit of hope to everyone whilst volunteering for EmpowerED, which we have a special guest later on, Fiona Jenkins, who's our expert by experience lead, and she looks after us, and she's going to explain more about EmpowerED and the work that they've been doing. But we're just going to share from our experience doing some work for EmpowerED.
Yeah, this podcast has been in the making for a while, and I think it's really exciting to be able to get it up and running and finally kind of getting some ideas together. We have a lot of exciting stuff I think that we're going to be sharing with you guys, lots of different subjects, guests, some of our clinical staff hopefully in the future, and so we can delve into a few different topics and interact with yourselves a little bit. And
So a little introduction to me. I am India, and I suffered with my mental health for as long as I can remember, had an eating disorder from young teens, and have since got 98% better. I think it's really hard to say that anyone who's suffered will be 100% recovered, because it is an ongoing journey and it's something you have to work at throughout your life, I think. But once you've got the coping mechanisms and the skills, it gets a lot easier, with a bit of self-acceptance and with the right support, which is why we like to share a bit of hope, because I think it can be difficult for a lot of people to receive that support. And so we're going to be sharing our tips and tricks later on in the podcast episodes, of how we've got to where we are. And because we both now work within the NHS as well, using our lived experience, and Georgia, you can explain exactly what you're doing as a student nurse. But we're really going to use this opportunity to just show people that recovery is a journey, but it is possible for anybody, no matter who you are, what gender.
Anyone really, isn't it? It's, eating disorders and mental health, it doesn't discriminate, no matter your age, kind of your sex, where you're from, your history, it really doesn't discriminate. And I think that's why it's important to shed some light onto eating disorders. That's going to be really exciting. I was just trying to think earlier of kind of when me and India first met or knew of each other, really. And I think it must have been, 7-8 years ago, in the Instagram recovery community, which I know can be quite interesting. But we've both come a long way since then, and obviously do this together. And as India said, we both work in the NHS. So I know, India, you do a lot of work with CNS and kind of training, which is similar to me as well. I'm a student nurse, so I'm due to qualify in a few months, which is exciting and really nerve-wracking, really. And I also I have some other jobs and kind of expert by experience roles in other sectors as well. So we've got our hands in a lot of pies. But it's definitely, I think it's nice to be able to give back to services that we have received previously, our good experiences, our bad experiences, like India said, any tips we can give people, and go from there, really. I know we've both been through the mill in a lot of mental health services, so inpatient and outpatient, eating disorder services, and so on. So it's nice to be able to kind of reflect on our time in our past when we were unwell, and now kind of going on that journey through recovery. And like India said, it's definitely a work in progress, and I know some people kind of believe in full recovery and others don't necessarily, but it's definitely kind of more comforting to know that you're not alone and that there are other people out there that are suffering, and reaching out and kind of having that common thing between each other is a really good support, and which links to EmpowerED and the group that we have. It's a really friendly bunch, and we get together and we do have quite a lot of fun as well, and we do get involved in quite a lot of different things for different services. And we're going to be going to the Penner Awards soon, which is really exciting, and we'll share some content with yourselves. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, we've been nominated for 4 awards, which is insane. So hopefully we get at least one. If we get all 4, Dave, who's sitting in the background, says he will be retiring. So I'm saying that on the podcast, so he's held accountable. I'm sure he's laughing behind his picture, but yeah, it's really exciting that we get to participate in all of these things, because we are just as valued members of the team as the professionals, and our input is very heard. And although we do have a big voice right now, I think the more experts that we get, the louder we can be, and our voice can be even louder and influence more services in the future. I think Georgia and I have both seen the good, bad, and very ugly side of services, and so this is just a really good opportunity to share all of that within the forums, so other services can learn from the ugly side of what we've experienced, so no one hopefully has to experience some of the things that we have. Yeah, I think a lot of people have seen the good, bad, and ugly. I'm very lucky that I've not seen the ugly for a few years now. I've received very good care, especially within CWP. I don't know about you, Georgia, but I think I am seeing improvements, but there's still some place for them to go.
Yeah, definitely. And, there's always room for improvement. And the more people that we do recruit, and we are definitely getting there across both LPCs, because we also have Level Up, which I'm sure we will mention, and have kind of experts come along and be a guest on the podcast eventually. But it's not even just about the negatives and the room for improvement. It's the positive and successful practice that has taken place, and kind of examples that can be made out of, so that people aspire to work that way and give the best quality care that we can possibly give as a service, as experts by experience, and hopefully other boroughs and other services within the NHS and private will follow.
Totally agreed. I think when you have someone that's been through so many different services, it gives you that push to want to try and influence the future for service users. And that is a lot of the experts within the forum. We all feel quite similar in that respect. I think we all just want better care for those struggling, and so people who are struggling get access to the support that they so desperately need, because we do know that a few people slip through the nets. I know when I moved to uni, I slipped through the net, and then through services. So I got discharged from my home service to my uni service, and they didn't accept me. So that took a massive decline, and so that did jeopardize my time at uni. And so I am going into my 6th year this year, but this will be my final year academically wise. But I think if things like that can improve, then the quality of life of people will just improve as well, and that's what we're ultimately aiming for.
No, definitely. I completely agree. And I know that EmpowerED and the LPCs and Fiona and Duncan, who we will gosh, I can't even speak today, that we will eventually have as guests as well. Do a lot of work with Chester University and some other services as well, and charities that are local to us, as well as going to lots of different events where we can speak to other boroughs and NHS services, so we can share best practice and get together with other organisations like the Priory and other places within the NHS to share best practice.
Talking of best practice, we were featured in the big book of best practice within CWP for the LPC's work, which is a massive achievement and something I think we're all very proud of. So it's not just the penners, we have many things going on, and I feel really lucky to be part of all of this, because we do go to some quite important events and we have access to some quite important people that you wouldn't think someone who has no qualifications, I mean we have qualifications, but you know, the level of qualifications to be a professional, we wouldn't expect to have access to someone like the CEO of CWP and have chats with him and all of these important people within the services. And we go to the partnership board and clinical delivery groups as experts by experience, which I think I'd never heard of it before, EmpowerED, and it's something that I'm very surprised at, but in a very, very good way. I think we're probably quite valuable within that, as we kind of share a different light than a professional. We have a different perspective.
Definitely, yeah. And if you do join us, if any of you watching do want to join us, you do get some free merch. So some mugs and pens and bags. I love a freebie. So yeah, we do have lots of talks with very important people, and they do thankfully share a lot of their time, their valued time with us. I know that Tim Welch is very supportive within both LPCs, and he keeps very up to date with everything that we're doing. So that's really, really good, because again, it can be hard to kind of reach people further up the chain, I suppose, in order to bring around change, which I think is really good. And that's why we're so passionate about CWP's LPCs. So that is really, really good.
I think it motivates us more as well, because we can see the positive influence our perspectives are having and our voices are having. And it's really refreshing to see change in action and our voices being listened to and taken on board. And I just think it's such a positive shift since I first entered services, when I felt very invalidated and not listened to now being, you know, you can be sat in the same room as all the non-executive directors, Tim Welsh, and you know, they're asking you questions and they really want to hear your opinion. So I think this is such a massive shift, and I cannot wait to see where this goes in the future. And I'm really excited about it. I'm sure you are too, Georgia.
Yes, no, definitely. And you know, when we do go to these events and kind of speak on different subjects, you know, we do a lot of presentations and things. The room is silent, people are listening, and hopefully, you know, we will continue to see more change. And I think, like you previously said, you know, that is something that is very different, because in a lot of other focus groups that I've heard of and kind of expert by experience input, there's not necessarily much movement. You know, they'll send out the questionnaires and the polls and stuff like that, but there's not as big of a drive to come back to the service users and be like, right, you asked and we did, or you kind of give us this input and this is what we've done about it. So I think that's really important, because we do feel valued, we do feel listened to. And you know, we're not, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. We're always going to come up against barriers and kind of issues within service, because people are human. You know, we're dealing with real people, but slowly but surely we'll try our best. And you know, nothing can go wrong when things are coming from, you know, a real place, and a place where people care and, you know, wanting to improve a service that we previously have had. I don't think you can go wrong with that.
And I think for the LPC to be holding an event just for us, so we have a celebration event coming up where we can invite family, friends, anybody that we would like to, just so they can see all of the amazing things that we've been up to as experts by experience over the last year. I feel like it's been a year. I don't know about you, Georgia. How long has it been? A year that we've been experts by experience?
Yeah, I think so. I think we kind of, gosh, that's gone really, really quickly.
It really has.
Yeah. So we're having a little get together, and like India said, friends and family or whoever are invited. So that's really exciting, and we're gonna be showing our family and whoever people decide to bring along what we've been up to, kind of pieces of work that we've taken part in, and organisations we've been working with, such as Young Minds. I know that Level Up worked with them, and EmpowerED worked with Beat as well. So all really positive things, and I think sometimes it's quite nice to see and look back at what you've done, because we don't realise how much we actually do. And I know that my family and friends are like, why are you in another meeting, like another Teams call, what's it about? So I think me being able to bring them and be like, well, this is what I've been doing, I've not just been sat on my laptop. I think that'll be really good.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I can't wait for that. I think we've just been up to so much that we get lost and it just seems the norm now. I think we both speak to each other at the end of the day and we update each other on our day, and it's just been like full of meetings and stuff, but it's just nice to be able to see the change at the end and just hopefully influence the future for other service users, which is our ultimate aim. I mean, I'm doing psychology at uni, hopefully going on to nursing next year, and I think this is just something within us now that we want to see all of it through to the end, and we do want to see all of these positive changes, and we want to be part of that change. So our first guest on our EmpowerED podcast is Fiona Jenkins, and she looks after all of us experts by experience. So I'll let Fiona introduce herself and tell you a bit about EmpowerED.
Thank you, India, and thank you, Georgia, for inviting me this morning. Well, my job is an absolute pleasure. So I'm the expert by experience lead for the Lead Provider Collaborative EmpowerED, and the name and identity was chosen by experts. The Lead Provider Collaborative is a group of pioneering, motivated services with clinicians that are looking at the best outcomes for patient and carers. So we have Cheshire and Rural Partnership Foundation Trust, Greater Manchester Mental Health, Langston South Cumbria, Merseycare, and Priory Healthcare. And together we think about innovative ideas and ways to deliver specialised mental health services around eating disorders. So it's a pleasure to work with the team as well. Experts by experience are at the heart of absolutely everything we do. The commissioning team are very focused on ensuring the best outcomes, and yeah, that's it. My role really, the expert by experience lead within the commissioning team at EmpowerED.
And what was the purpose of setting up the EmpowerED forum to include us experts by experience?
We don't know what we don't know. So we needed the experts right at the core of the LPC commissioning team and LPC to share their lived experiences, which you and Georgia have done. It's been absolutely incredible. So thank you. To help us shape specialised mental health services, to feed back right at the core to improve services moving forward. So the forum are critical to all of our work. Your equal partners, your voices are crucial to moving forwards. You're on the clinical delivery group, the partnership board. You know, we have a great forum, don't we, once a month, where we discuss clinical subjects and barriers and experiences and ideas, from craftism to an artwork to poetry to clinical change to reviewing documents. You know, you're doing everything that it says on the tin really and more. You know, I know you give a lot of your time as volunteers, so it's an absolute pleasure to work with you and to be part of the team. So thank you.
So thank you, Fiona, for joining us on our podcast today. And if any of you would like to learn more about EmpowerED, please go over to our website. So that's www.empowered.nhs.uk. So if you have lived experience of an eating disorder and want to join us, just go over to there. And we look forward to seeing you all again.